hear me? You all good now?
Good.
Oh, this is perfect. Okay, so Coach, you told me, that your dad was a coach, and that you coached in Georgia last year. How
Yep.
long have you been at IMG?
So I got here a couple months ago, so not very long at all, but it's been a great experience thus far.
So, tell me about coaching at IMG, Coach. What all does that consist of?
Yeah, so I mean, the best way I can put it is that we are the world's largest sports specific boarding school. So what that means is every student on our campus is an athlete as well. And so for me, what's so awesome about our job is in a normal high school, not only are you coaching, but you're also teaching classes all day. You got parent teacher conferences to do. You may have parking lot duty, so on and so forth, which is all fine, right? That's part of it. But here at IMG, they hire us just as football coaches. So all I have to do is focus on developing my tight ends, developing our specialists, and preparing our special teams units because I'm our special teams coordinator also for our varsity program. So it's been awesome. I mean, to be able to just focus on football, really develop as not only a coach but also as a person, because the wealth of knowledge that I get to be around every single day from our head coach on our varsity staff, Kyle Bray, to Chris Dennis, Demery Lawshie, Jared Allen, Cord Sandberg to on the defensive side, Jeff Pond, Keon Helton, Jawan Dowles, Christian Clark. And that's not even counting our national staff or our post-grad staff. I mean, every single person in the building has either played college, coached college, played in the NFL, or coached in the NFL. And so for me to walk into an office space with that wealth of knowledge, I mean, you can't help but get better and grow every day.
Wow. So how many different teams have y'all got?
We have 4 total.
And that's the national team is
Yep.
like A. And then
So,
what's B?
so national team's the one that most people are familiar with. It's the oldest program on campus. It started back in 2013, I believe. Now, of course, IMG started initially as a voluntary tennis academy way back in the 70s. And so it grew from there. So we have other sports on campus, of course. But football started about a decade ago with our national program. And everybody that comes and plays on that team typically comes to us with 10 plus Division I offers, your typical 4 or 5-star guy, whatever that means. And so they've already kind of been through that discovery process, if you will, in terms of they're coming to really just prepare for the next level, right? The exposure piece is kind of already there for those guys. We have our post-grad program, which is our newest team, and that's basically like 13th grade. So for guys that either got injured in high school, maybe there were a couple courses that they didn't get that they need to get admitted into the college that they want to be at, or maybe it's somebody that feels like they were a late bloomer and they need some more tape. People come and play on our post-grad team without losing any eligibility because they're not enrolled in college yet. And so it's basically like taking a red shirt without losing any eligibility.
Like Fork Union.
Very simple. Yes, exactly. And then the program that I'm a part of, our varsity football program, is actually 4 years old, and it consists of 2 teams, our white and our blue team. Now, we do play a lot of in-state schools here in Florida, so a lot more of your local schools. But we'll also get to do some cool things as well. Like we'll go play an international game this year in London, England. We'll go down and do an overnight trip down to Key West, play their high school. But for us, our deal is to maximize the development of our players and maximize their film opportunities for college placement. So 100% of seniors in our varsity program have been placed at the next level the past 2 years. And it's 80 kids in 4 years total. So in the beginning, it was just theory, right? But now we have evidence to back it up. And so guys that come to us in this program typically are coming to us for that development and also for that exposure piece that maybe they feel like that they're missing. And so it's pretty easy to stand out when you have a good spring game and 40 plus college coaches are standing on the sideline. It's much easier to get that exposure going, right? And we're just blessed and fortunate to have obviously the investment that we do here on campus and the legacy that the guys before me and before the other players that are with us now, the legacy that those guys left behind that kind of give college coaches that notion that, hey, IMG is a place that I better go get eyes on.
Yeah. I mean, it's like every college is going to go to IMG.
Right.
So there's been a big controversy
Mm-hmm.
that I pretty much have started about camps
Yep.
and coaches telling me, college coaches telling our players that they need to come to camp. We need to see him at camp. Coach, can you get him to camp? Coach, we need to see him at camp. Coach, yeah, coach, we need to see him at camp. How's it been going, coach? But really, how's it been going? Yeah, we need to get him at camp. We really need to see him at camp. And they go to camp
Yep.
and they kill it and they
Yep.
still don't get offer.
Yep.
So, like, I had a kid get hurt at a camp. So, what is your philosophy on college coaches coming to y'all's program? I mean, do they even have to ask a kid from IMG to come to camp? Or can they just say, hey, this guy's good enough, he could play on our team. We want you or we don't?
No, we definitely have guys that they have to go to camp, but it's crazy. Everybody experiences the same things, regardless of if you're coaching at IMG or you're coaching at, a smaller school or whatever it may be, right? It doesn't matter. We all experience those same things as high school coaches. It's crazy that you mentioned that, because we had a kid go up in camp, and I'm not going to say the name of the school, but it's a school.
Please don't, because I've caused a barnstorm. People are rioting up here in Virginia and other coaches across America.
Yeah, well, it's a school in the Northeast, and we had a kid go up there, just like you said, did really well. But here's what's crazy, Coach. They actually offered him at camp. And then his family leaves campus, and they're on their way back home. And then they call and say, hey, yeah, you actually don't have an offer yet. We just got to make sure the rest of the guys that come to camp aren't better than you. So, yeah, I mean, I've had guys go to camp, and they told me, hey, Coach, I just wish he was a little bit bigger. Like, I told you how big he was before he came to camp, and so
yeah.
the deal that I tell every college coach, because I get it, I've been on the other side. And so my deal is just transparency. And I think it does go both ways, because I'm sure there's college coaches that would jump on here and go, Coach, I did want him to come to camp, but that's because you said he was 6'5", and he got to campus and he was 6'3", right? So my big deal is just honesty on both sides. Like, if you know and you trust that the numbers I'm giving you are accurate, you know what the film is, right? You've seen him playing football, hopefully. Then you should be able to assess whether he's good enough or not, especially if you see him in person. Like, if you can't look at a guy in person, you've seen his tape, you've watched him in camp, and then you come back and say, yeah, well, we just need to see some more. Like, I mean, like, what's your evaluation process, right? Because, I mean, for us as high school coaches, I mean, I know we're a little bit different, because obviously we recruit and things like that. But, I mean, I've coached at a normal high school as well, and the guys that come out to the field, those are the guys that you got to coach.
Amen.
And so you got to figure out where you can place those guys, and you got to be able to project those guys. So I think high school coaches do that better than anybody else.
Man, it shocks me that there would be a college that would offer a kid at IMG.
Yeah.
I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. I've only been to Florida a couple times in my life, but I know IMG. All right. I know a guy named Nolan Smith.
Yep.
All right. And I had a player that played in the All-Star game in San Antonio, Jaden Payute. And I walked on the field and I said, Jaden, who's the best guy out here? And he said, that guy. And it was Nolan Smith. And he went to IMG. So I don't know, how could a coach offer a kid at IMG, then retroactively pull that offer and expect to get another kid from IMG?
Well, it's
how about just offer all the kids at IMG?
It's not even coaches going, hey, you don't want to go camp at that school. It's just like, you got to realize that kids talk, like, they communicate with each other. So when everybody else on our roster hears, hey, yeah, I went up to camp and they offered me, and then they took it back before I could even step back home, then every other kid on our campus goes, well, I don't want to go there.
Man, I'm telling you, I've had some coaches that have tried to scare me out of telling the truth about this hustle, about camps. And I don't, Coach, you're young. You probably have never seen the movie Hoop Dreams. It was a great movie, documentary. They followed these kids that were the next big thing in basketball when they were in 8th grade all the way through college.
Sure.
And there was all these players. They had these hoop dreams, and they were told how great they were.
Yeah.
And the movie is still important today.
Yeah.
How people used these kids and told them what they wanted to hear. And you need to come to camp, and you're the best thing. And a kid's hurt. Well, we really need to see him at camp. Well, coach, he's got a pulled groin. Well, we really need to see him at camp. How about this one, coach? He runs a 4.40. Oh, we needed you to run it again because an 18-year-old, 19-year-old GA student assistant timed him. We need to get somebody else to time him. So I'm going to time him. I've been coaching college football 20 years. I time him 4.4. Okay, let's get this other guy over here. Okay, he's been coaching college football 30 years. Let's time him. Oh, he ran a 4.4 again. Okay, well, we're not 100% sure. Make him run it again.
Yeah.
So now he's done 4.4.
It's amazing how college coaches and look, I know again, like I'm not trying to put every college coach into one category because I've worked at college level and I've worked around some unbelievable people, honest people, transparent people that know what they're doing. But it is amazing how it's like if you're game planning for an opponent, most college coaches can look at the other team and decide based on film whether one of their players are good or they're not when they're trying to figure out matchups. Why is it so different when you're watching film of a guy just because he's 3 or 4 years younger?
Yeah, maybe it's the level of competition. I'm not sure. But you make a great point. I mean, one coach that I talked to today that's rational. See, I'm irrational, but he's rational. He told me, he said, Troy, there's so many high school players out there that are scared. Like they're scared of not getting recruited, not getting the offer. And I mean, that's why a place like yours exists.
Yeah.
Because kids want to be seen. So there's this fear. There's this, I'm not getting recruited. Our colleges using that fear to get them to come to camp to make money.
Absolutely. Now, that doesn't apply to every kid, but absolutely. I mean, those camps like that help. And look, everybody runs camps, whether they're a high school coach, college coach. And, you have some guys that do it for free and all that, which is awesome. But sometimes there are guys on staff. Like I remember being at places where you got guys volunteering in your college program. And the money that you make off camps are sometimes a way to help those individuals, right, that aren't getting paid. So there's different ways in which you go about it. So I don't want to make it sound like it's this evil thing, right? But I do think that there needs to be some transparency in the process, not just coach, like we really need this guy to book a flight to come all the way out here and perform at camp. And then when you watch him, you call me back and say, yeah, I saw him in person. I know I've watched his film up to this point, but I just need to see some more film this upcoming year. Like, I mean, at that point, if he sacrifices his time to come all the way out there and see you, I mean, in my opinion, you need to be able to tell him whether he's good enough or not, right?
Yeah,
if that changes down the road, then let's have that conversation down the road. But there doesn't need to be this cloudy answer at the end of it. Like there needs to be a black and white answer. Like you've evaluated the film, or you've seen him somewhere to invite him out. So do the work ahead of time, understand where he's at, and then once you see him at camp, let that confirm whether he can play for you like you thought, or he can't. Right? So. I just think more transparency in the process. But look, college coaches are in a tough spot too. I'll be honest with you, like the transfer portal deal, I know a lot of people talk about it, but one of the reasons why I feel like it's much harder for high school coaches to get an answer from a college coach is because they don't know who in the world is going to enter the portal from day to day. I mean, they don't, right? And so they got families too. They got a job that they got to keep too. And so if you can go find a kid that's shown on film that he's already played college football at a high level and you're able to get that kid, well, they're probably going to take him as opposed to somebody that hadn't proven themselves yet. But, the tough part for the high school kid is, that's always changing. People are transferring, people are leaving, people are coming, people are going. it's just such a fluid process, much more fluid process in terms of roster management than it was, I mean, even 5-6 years ago.
Yeah. And I talked to another coach who's rational and level-headed, and he gave me some good advice. And I just want to mention it to you. You can tell me, have you ever heard of this way of thinking? He's got a guy on his staff that played Division I football. He
Yep.
played in the NFL, and he's had sons who are Division I recruits.
Yep.
And this is what this guy who has had that experience of playing in the NFL, playing major Division I football, told his kids. He said, you have to look at their roster and do you see yourself? Do you see yourself on that roster?
Yep.
So if I'm a 5'10", 230-pound offensive guard, do I see myself on their roster? It's cookie cutter.
Right.
Like, I'm a safety, but I'm a 5'8", 160 pounds. Do I see myself on Alabama's roster? I mean, they don't have a kicker that's that size.
Right.
So is that something that high school coaches can kind of, I mean, dude, I've talked to Vinny Serrato. He was the GM for the Redskins. He was the #1 recruiter in the country at Notre Dame. I mean, I talked to Jim Cavanaugh. He recruited Michael Vick. He coached for a bunch of NFL, a bunch of Hall of Fame coaches. Mm-hmm. And there is a certain size that a kid needs to be. There are some outliers, but what do you think about that, Coach? Do you see yourself on their roster? Is that something you should talk about to your players about?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's why I try to qualify everything I say with saying, like, every situation is different. Like, let's not paint it out to where it's college coaches versus high school coaches or like, at the end of the day, if you're in coaching for the right reasons, you're in it for the kids, regardless of what level that you coach, whether that be, you're in it for the adults coaching at the pro level, or, the young adults at the college level, or the kids at the high school level. Like, if you're in it for the right reasons, you're in it for them. Now, I will say, like, you do see situations where people are complaining, like, well, why didn't my son get an offer? Well, it's because you took your son, who's 6 foot 230, to Alabama's offensive line camp. Like, of course they're not going to offer him, right? So I've had conversations with our guys. I mean, we got some really good players, but not everybody on our team can go play for Georgia or Alabama, right? And so the conversations that I have with our guys are, look, if you want to go to those camps, just understand that you're doing it more for the experience as opposed to the recruiting part. Now, if you go there and something great happens, then let's talk about that then. But just make sure that you set the expectation beforehand of, like, this is what they have, this is what they're looking for. You are not that right now. Now, if you go there and do really well and that changes, let me know and we'll go from there. But also, high school coaches have to do a great job of setting the expectations for their players of where they see them at and where they project them to land at, and then attack those places. I mean, shoot, I've learned so much here from a college placement standpoint that I'll be able to use the rest of
what? Give me 3 things. Give me 3 things.
Having a weekly college placement meeting as a staff, not just assigning one guy to be over recruiting, have every coach help with it. And then also having the ability to be able to create documents and Excel sheets that track the communication that you have with each college coach. I mean, I've got documents. I mean, I coach tight ends. I can pull up a document right now for a parent of one of our tight ends, and it will show where I'm at in the contact process and communication process with every single FCS or Group of 5 tight end coach in the country.
Wow. So I love it. I love it.
You to cover all your bases, and also keeps you organized as a coach. Because, shoot, I mean, anybody that's watching this is probably on Twitter, right? Like, DMs get lost like crazy. But there has to be an organized process with which you go about these things. I mean, if college coaches are organized and setting their boards and figuring out who they're going to write, who they're going to mail, right, and having all their documentation, well, shouldn't high school coaches do the same thing in terms of trying to communicate with college coaches? There has to be a process to it.
Yes, and I like how y'all do it. Yep. It's based on your group, your segment, that you're responsible for helping your student athletes go to the next level. I like that.
Well, what's crazy is and look, we've talked about college coaches a lot, but not all high school coaches think that.
What the way that y'all do it about breaking it down by position?
What you just said, not all high school coaches think that it's their job to help their kids get recruited to the next level. I mean, I've heard horror stories before of guys and they don't believe that it's their job to help their kids gain exposure, get recruited to go play the next level. And I'm like, I mean, shame on you that you're in coaching, asking these kids to show up every single day to your workouts, to your film sessions, to your meetings, to commit to what you're doing, but then you're not going to help them after they graduate or help them have a plan for what that's going to look like. That's crazy to me. I'm not saying it's a lot, but I have heard of people that don't think that is their responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of our mission statement. It's a part of our mission statement of this clinic podcast. Is the first thing is we want to change lives.
Yep.
Like that's number one. Is we want you to be better because you were a part of our program. We want you to be better because you watch this podcast.
Right.
You want to change lives. Two, we want to help get you to the next level.
Yep.
All right. So if that means go to Alabama, that means go to the apprentice school and learn how to work on submarines and aircraft carriers and make more money than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. If it means go to a small school and pay zero, that's fine. Help guys get to the next level. And then three, big picture, build champions for life. Like we want you just not to be a champion in high school. Like we say, man, in high school, I was the man, homie. Like we don't want you to be that guy. We want you to be the guy that the best part of your life is in the future and you're getting better. So that's kind of what we hang our hat on. But grades, talk about the importance of grades, Coach.
Yeah.
Like between having a guy who's got a 2.0, a 2.5, a 3.0, and a 3.5. What are the opportunities for those different guys? Just 2.0, 2.5, 3.0, 3.5.
I mean, I'll give you an example for me. I mean, I was a student assistant. I didn't even play college football. I just jumped right into coaching. But I was able to get full tuition to Jacksonville State University based off my grade, right? So, and that was even.
What was your GPA?
Oh, shoot, it's probably 3.75.
That's awesome. So the better grades, more opportunities.
Right. Yeah, it only opens more doors for you. And I'm not saying it's not possible for guys who are in tough situations or it doesn't, fit them or whatever their experience has been in the classroom, right? Different people come from different backgrounds. But I will say, especially at the FCS level where guys can stack scholarships. And what I mean by that is if you come to them and say, Coach, I got a 3.0 GPA, and they think you're a talented player, but maybe not a full scholarship player, well, they can come back to you and say, hey, you got a 3.0 GPA. That gets you X amount of academic money, and we'll cover the rest.
Yes.
And so that's vitally important for guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, talk a little bit about that because, we talk to our players, but, I want this podcast not just to help me and you, but to help other people and kids. Because, when they see an IMG coaches on here, heck, y'all got kids that have left high schools in Virginia and went down there and played for y'all. So y'all know something.
Right.
Okay, so scholarships at the big schools, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the UVAs, the Floridas, number of scholarships. At the 1AAs, I don't even know who the 1AAs are in Florida, but in Virginia, I know them. William and Mary, JMU. And then you got your D2s and you got your D3s. How do the scholarships work, Coach? I just want you to explain to everybody. Is it like a dollar amount once you go under the big dogs?
Yeah, so when you talk about Division I FBS schools, a scholarship for them is all encompassing. So if they offer you a scholarship, that is everything. They cannot break that up. They can't come to me and go, hey, Riley, we want you to come here, so we're just going to pay for your books and housing, but you're on the hook for everything else. If they give you anything, it has to cover everything. At the FCS level, you are able to break it apart. So you have 63 total scholarships, and you get to break that up amongst your whole roster. So if that means you have a roster of 100 players, all 100 players get a little bit of something, or that means you have a roster of 100 players and only 63 guys are getting something, but all 63 of those guys are on full scholarship. It's based up to each staff, and different guys have different philosophies of how they go about doing that.
How did the best do it? How did the best do it in 1AA? Because, I mean, there's the best. I mean, North Dakota State, I think that's them. It's the green team. It's the guys that always win it. They play in the Fargo Dome, and they always get a quarterback drafted in the NFL. How do they do it?
Well, I mean, your marquee positions have got to be a full scholarship guy, in my opinion. When you talk about the guys up front, you talk about your quarterback, you talk about a couple of star receivers, a great running back, you talk about your secondary guys. I mean, your starters are going to have to be full scholarship guys, unless you find a guy who's a really good player that also has really good academics. And what I'll say about schools like that is I think the best ones do the best job of finding the guys who are smart football players, but also talented football players, and they're able to fill out their roster and help supplement their quote unquote full guys with players who are really talented, but were also really really smart, right? Because they can take a guy like, I mean, I don't know what Carson Wentz's GPA was, right? But let's say he was a full scholarship guy. Well, maybe the guy protecting him at left tackle was a really good player, really big frame. They developed him, but maybe he had a 3.5 GPA, so they only had to give him half a scholarship or a quarter of a scholarship, right? And so it's just taking into account all those factors and being able to project. The best guys at the Division I AA level now, more than ever, are able to project talent and what that's going to look like. Because, I mean, when I was at Jacksonville State, I mean, we had guys like Zarek Cooper, Rock Thomas. I mean, guys that transferred down from the FBS level from schools like Clemson, Auburn, Alabama, whatever it may be, right? Those days are over for FCS schools because now you can transfer from an FBS to another FBS. So they can't, that's over, right? So they have to do a really great job from a development standpoint of figuring out what their numbers are, what they have coming back, who needs the most money that provides the most value, and then if there's younger guys that they're bringing in, who can we find that's really, really talented but also gets it done in the classroom that can help cover some of that scholarship piece with what they do academically.
So when a kid comes to IMG, when they come there, do they already know if they're going to be on the national team or they're going to be on the varsity team? Or, I mean, the post grad, I guess they would already know.
Yeah.
But do they know?
Yeah, I would say 9 times out of 10, they typically know. Those conversations that we have up front. And again, we have different staffs for each team. So obviously, like guys that the national team may be looking at, like I'm not looking at those guys, right? Like I have other guys that I'm trying to market to. And same thing for the post grad team. So we're all filling out our rosters separately. It's not like we're sitting in on the same meetings and they're all talking to the guys that I may be talking to and I'm talking to their guys. Like we're underneath the same roof, but we're all separate units, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean the PG don't have nothing to do with the national team.
Because those guys are done with high school.
Yeah, then like I guess y'all. So how do y'all break the two varsity teams down?
Yeah, so they're both full varsity teams. Just one plays on Thursday night, one plays on a Friday night. And so we typically try to carry 45 to 50 players on each roster. But the reason why they decided to do two teams is because of the film aspect of the recruiting process, right? Like it would do nothing for a family for them to come to IMG and their kid doesn't have the opportunity to get film for the next level. Because at the end of the day, like the camps are awesome, all that's great, but I mean they're football players, right? So college coaches have to see them playing football. And so that's why we have the two teams, and that's why we have them both play varsity competition. So that way coaches know, like, look, it's not like JV varsity. No, these are two varsity teams. We're able to take the entire program-wide roster as a varsity program and place players on each team to where they fit best, to where they can get the most reps.
Mm-hmm. So, like our guys, and for a long time now, people have asked me, "Well, Troy, what advice would you give a kid?" And what I usually say is, and I just want you, to sign off or add to it or take away from it. The first thing I say is like, man, be a good kid.
Yeah.
Be a good person. Make great grades and work hard. And the rest will take care of itself. Or is that just enough, coach? What other advice do y'all give your guys at IMG? Is there anything else to it than that?
I mean, I think that football doesn't always create character. I think a lot of times it reveals it. And I think who you are as a person comes out really, really quick when the pressure's on you, whether that be in the classroom, whether that be on the field, whether that be at practice, whether that be at home. And so a college coach has to know that when that pressure comes, you're going to rise to the occasion, not fall when it occurs. And so to me, I think obviously we talked about the things off the field, right? Like you can control. I mean, I basically break down our tight end unit in our manual into 4 different things. And one of our deals with the academic piece is, first of all, show up, like be there.
Show up. That's a great rule. I love it.
Okay, I know that's not
go to class, show class, treat people with
right?
dignity and respect.
I have a rule where our guys have to shake the hand of their professor or their teacher and know their name, so that way that teacher or that professor, when the semester comes down to it at the end and they're at 89.4, it's not some faceless name on a piece of paper, like they know who they are.
Yes, I've had kids that have failed when they had a 63.4 and they needed 64 to pass because they were a jerk.
Yep. Yep. I tell our guys, have everything in. Like just have everything turned in, right? Be expectant. So don't go into class with this deal like, well, I'm just going to get through it. Like, I'm not saying you got to expect to remember everything, but expect to learn something while you're in there, right? And then also at the end of it, I like for our guys to get to know their classmates, like learn somebody's name that you hadn't met before. I mean, if you show up every day, the teacher knows who you are, you turn everything in, you're expecting that you're going to learn something, and you build relationships with your classmates, I think that GPA is going to take care of itself. And then from an on the field standpoint, be the best football player you can be on your high school team. Like, be the best player on your high school team. Be the best leader and be the best player on your team. You can't control, like, if it's me and I'm playing at, I don't know, let's see, my senior year I played at Foley High School, right? Like, it was my job to try to be the best player I could be at Foley High School. When I played at Hoover, it was try to be the best player I could be at Hoover High School. You know, I couldn't worry about what were players doing at IMG, what were they doing at so-and-so school in California or Texas. All I can control is being the best player on the field that I'm on. And that's all you can focus on.
Yeah, so worry about what you can control.
Yep.
Yeah, don't focus on, the product, focus on the process. What's important now? The scoreboard will take care of itself. Take care of your business.
And understand, too, everybody has their own path. I think social media has created a culture of comparison, and I think it's true for adults and kids. I think it's true for coaches and players. Like, it's all glitz and glam, right, on social media because it's a highlight reel. But, I mean, I don't mind saying this because I'm a believer, but I think God has a plan for every single individual on this earth, right? And so that plan is going to come to fruition whether you like it or not. That plan was set before you.
Amen.
And came out of your mother's womb, right? So have faith that things are going to work out like they're supposed to. And it's not always easy to see that in the moment. There's been times in my life, I mean, heck, I thought I was going to play in the NFL, right? And then I go on my visit at Jacksonville State, and I realize I don't even look like those guys. So that started my coaching career early, right?
Yeah.
But everybody has their own path and journey, and understand that and be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like my kid that got hurt. I mean, this wasn't a part of his plan.
Right.
But it's a part of his journey, and he's just gonna have to keep, work hard to get back on the field or do whatever he's got to do in the classroom to prepare himself.
If not, guess what? And I always like to tell people this too. Like, I love football, man, but it is not my life. Like, there's so many things that are more important than football. This is just a platform to impact people, in my opinion. And so use it as that. Like, if you're a player, use the time that you have on the platform that you have in order to impact other people, right? And as a coach, I'm only going to coach a certain amount of games in my life, right? When I die one day and I get to heaven, God's not going to look at me and go, "Hey, I want to know how many games you won. I want to know how many championships you won. And I want to know how many offers your kids got." Like, He's going to want to know, how'd you treat people? What'd you do with the people that I put in your path? What'd you do with those kids that I put in your care, right? And so that's all you can focus on. Like, be great in the classroom, be a great teammate, and be the best player on the field that you can possibly be.
Yeah, and then if somebody wants to know, well, what camp should I go to? I mean, go to whatever camp you want to pay to go to and do the best you can. And then you'll know whether they want you to be on their team, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I did at Gainesville, when I did their recruiting stuff, that I think any high school
Gainesville,
coach,
Georgia.
yep, that I think any high school coach can use is at the beginning of every year, I have them fill out a Google form, and they have to list their top 3 schools at each level that they would be interested in. So give me your
Yes.
top 3 FBS schools, your top 3 FCS, your top 3 D2, D3, NAIA. And so I don't care if you got a Tennessee offer. You're going to tell me the top 3 D3 schools that if you had to go to one that you would be interested in. And so then when camp season comes around and you know a guy, hey, he listed top 3 FBS schools, but you know he's probably a D2 player. Well, those are the camps he may need to go to, and you need to start contacting about him because those were the 3 that he gave you that he'd be interested in. And then if he gets upset, then, I mean, he's the one that gave them to you, right? So those are the initial contacts that you can make.
Hey, that's a great idea. I mean, yeah, you're putting the ball in their court.
Right.
You're saying, hey, man, we got to have a backup plan just in case something happens. You get hurt, or
Yep.
you might not want to go play small college football. But I mean, I always tell them, like Tom Brady, as a freshman in high school, he didn't start on the freshman team that didn't win a game. Aaron Rodgers was told he was a D3 quarterback. Like,
Yep.
some of the greatest of all time have met rejection and had to face adversity, and
Josh Allen had 1 offer out of high school to Wyoming.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah, he was begging people from JUCO.
Yep.
I mean, I think I might have been at Virginia Union when he was emailing people.
So that's the deal. Like, understand, like, I get it, like, you don't want to hear that, but just because you don't want to hear it doesn't mean it's not reality. All it takes is one staff to believe in you, one coach to believe in you, and that's all you need. Then everybody else that doubted you, right? You go to a camp like our kid, and they decide a day later that they don't want to offer you. Well, prove them wrong. Like, make them that the rest of their career.
It's like Peyton Manning. Yep. He said, "You're either going to draft me, or you're going to have to deal with me for the next however many years." And they did.
That's right. Yep.
That guy was a beast.
That's
Man,
right.
he was a beast. So your dad was a coach. Talk to me a little bit about where he coached and where all you've lived and been.
Yeah, so he when I was born in Selma, he was coaching at Meadowview Christian with my grandfather, and then he took over a head coaching job at Springwood School, a small private school in Lynette, Alabama. And then from there, he went and he was the offensive coordinator at Oxford High School. After an undefeated season there, after Rush Probst left Hoover, my uncle got that job from Oxford. My uncle was the head coach at Oxford. And he brought my dad to be the coordinator there as well. We ended up winning 3 straight state championships when I was
in Alabama.
In Alabama.
Yes. I love Alabama football.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Alabama football chat. Hope you guys are watching.
No,
shout out to the Alabama football chat.
Yeah, I have a feeling
to be from Alabama. Is that what they say? That's Mike Spencer went to Alabama. He's my friend. He's from St. Thomas Aquinas. He got recruited by Bruce Arians that played for Bear Bryant, and he loves Alabama.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean,
what is so great about Alabama football?
Huh?
What is so great about Alabama football? Just the state of Alabama.
The commitment from every single community to be the best that they can be.
Hooah.
Like,
America needs to be more like Alabama.
I will coach. I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know what obviously God's plan is, but I will coach in that state again eventually because to me, I mean, there's no better feeling than Friday night in Alabama. I mean, it's something else. I mean, because I think the difference is, like, people ask me when I was in Georgia, like, what's the difference between Alabama and Georgia? To me, I think Georgia has more depth in terms of quality of teams just because the state's bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many schools that there's communities that sometimes are fractioned here because these kids go.
Yeah, not always in Georgia. Not everybody's always the state champion. Like it kind of like one team.
And even within communities, because there's so many people, right? Some people may go to some school and they go to a different school, but you live 2 streets away. Like in Alabama, at your high school, like that is your town's high school, and that is who that town is getting behind. So that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's like it's a community event. It's like Friday Night Lights, but it's Alabama.
That's right.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love Texas and I love Alabama football. Yeah. I love South Florida football too, Coach. I don't know where y'all are. Y'all are near Orlando, ain't you?
No, we're between Tampa and Sarasota, so we're on the southwest corner of Florida.
I know where St. Petersburg is.
We're 25, 30 minutes from there.
Wow. My friend used to coach at Lakewood. He was assistant coach. He had Isaiah Wynn. He plays for the Dolphins now. Yeah, we had him, and then he had the Griffin twins, and then he had the receiver from the Chiefs. Golly, he's got like a double name. Man, he's good.
Juju Smith.
No, not Juju Smith-Schuster. It's like I can't think of it, Coach.
Well,
it'll pop. I mean, he plays in the NFL, Coach. He had all kinds of people. Really so good. Y'all are 25 minutes from there.
Yep.
Man, Coach Bald, if you're watching, you need to go look up Coach. All right, he's the president of Totem Pole Nation. That's what YouTube channel this clinic goes to. Okay. But Coach Bald needs to go to IMG.
Yeah,
and he needs to visit IMG. Coach Bald, Coach. Yeah. This guy's house, it looks like Tom Brady's house. Wow. He lives in $1 million home right on south side of St. Petersburg.
Wow.
And he's friends with Sarah Blake Cheek.
Wow.
Now, you're married, aren't you?
I am.
All right, but don't get caught looking at Sarah Blake Cheek's fan site or Twitter or Instagram.
I'll keep that in mind.
Keep it in mind, Coach. Now, she would be great for if y'all ever needed a model.
Okay.
IMG photo shoot, but y'all are high school.
Yeah.
Right, Coach, man, I love you, Coach. Yeah. I love football, and I love football coaches and football players.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
25. I'll be 20 this year.
25. Man, your best coaching is ahead of you. You've already at IMG. I mean, heck, man. I think you're great. You got a fan for life. Is there anything else you want to say, Coach, before we get off here?
No, I mean, again, it's just the fact that you even invited me on here. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No, I'll cut it out, Coach.
But this has been awesome. I'm an advocate of high school football. I mean, I know a lot of guys, typically when you see that they come here, they're coming here to get to the next level. I'm a high school football coach. Like, I'm not trying to get back into college, not trying to jump into the NFL. I think there's no better age group to impact than 14 to 18-year-olds. I don't care what the money looks like. I don't care about any of that stuff. That's all temporary anyways. I think there's nothing better than high school football.
I had a guy tell me he's going to be on this show later, Coach, at 3. His name is Dr. Bill Holt. 50 years coaching high school and college. And he told me today, he said, Troy, the only people still coaching are the high school coaches. I was like, wow. The only people still coaching are the high school coaches.
Well, I'm glad you let me go before him because there's no way I could have matched 50 years of wisdom. There's no.
You know, Coach, there's levels to this. Yeah. And, you brought to the table what you bring. And you're an expert in what you know. And you helped me.
Yeah.
You helped me. I learned from you.
Right.
This whole idea of breaking down the recruiting by position, I mean, that's genius. Yeah. I mean, well, you got an assistant coach. Well, Coach, we need to do something for that player. Well, you're the running back coach, and he's a running back. So that's a good idea. Why don't you handle that?
Staff development too, because one day, hopefully I'm blessed. I'll be blessed enough to be a head coach somewhere.
Oh,
And
you gonna be head coach.
Talk about having a guy that is coaching your running backs. Maybe that guy does want to coach in college. Well, let that guy go make those contacts and build those relationships and see how that process works, right? That'll continue to help his development as well.
Yes, amen. Yeah, and whenever you get your first head coaching job, I want to be your first podcast.
All right.
All right. You just remember who remembered you, man.
That's right.
You've done podcasts before, haven't you?
I have.
Oh, yeah. Which ones? I want to watch them.
I've done High School Coaches Club. I've done
What's your favorite football podcast?
Well, I mean, I gotta say yours on this deal, right? I mean, got to, right? After yours, Parker Resources is really good.
Parker Resources.
I got to know Chris Parker in Georgia, and now it's kind of become a deal with coaches in the Southeast.
Yeah.
He's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I'm the low man on the totem pole.
No,
I got to meet Coach. I got to meet Coach Parker, man.
I'm on here right now, so this is my favorite podcast.
Yeah, brother. You're the best, man. I'm going to press in, and then we'll chat for a little bit, okay?
Perfect.
Thank you.